Ever since she could remember, Ava Martin noticed the difference in how her parents, James and Claire Martin, treated her compared to her little sister, Bella. Growing up in a quiet neighborhood in San Antonio, Texas, Ava learned early that Bella's smallest cries summoned instant comfort. One night when Ava was 5 and Bella was 3, Bella let out a whimper. Claire rushed in, scooped her up and rocked her gently. When Ava called out from her own room minutes later, Claire walked in, kissed her forehead and said, "You're the big girl, Ava. Be strong, okay?" Ava nodded, trying not to cry. She remembered her 7th birthday party especially well. It was supposed to be a small gathering at the local ice cream parlor with 5 of her friends. She had picked out her favorite pink dress and even drawn handmade invitations. But that morning, Bella said she wanted to go to the zoo instead. Just like that, the party was cancelled. "Bella isn't feeling great," Claire told Ava. Ava spent the rest of the day on the phone, apologizing to her friends' parents while her dad tried to cheer Bella up with stuffed animals and cotton candy. "Where are you watching from today? Kindly hit like, comment and subscribe to this channel for more." That birthday wasn't the only time Ava's special moments were taken away. When she was in 4th grade, Ava won first place at her school's science fair. Her project was a model of the solar system complete with spinning planets. She was so proud. But on the day of the awards ceremony, her parents were nowhere to be found. They had gone to Bella's gymnastics class, even though it was just a practice, not a competition. Ava stood alone with her ribbon in hand while other kids posed for pictures with their families. "Maybe next time," James said later, brushing her hair aside. Ava smiled weakly and whispered, "It's okay," even though it wasn't. Every time Ava brought home straight A's, her parents gave a quick nod, then moved on. But when Bella got a B- in math, it was cause for celebration. They ordered pizza and posted about it on social media. When Bella said her stomach hurt, she got a doctor's visit, a toy from the pharmacy and ice cream on the way home. When Ava had a sore throat and a mild fever, Claire simply said, "Drink tea and sleep it off, honey." Over time, Ava stopped expecting much. When Bella had parties with balloon arches and glittering cakes, Ava clapped along and helped serve snacks. "You're the responsible one," her mom would say proudly, as if that were enough. Ava learned to hold in her tears, to be the one who never complained. But beneath that quiet strength grew a fierce determination. She told herself, "If no one notices me, I'll become someone they can't ignore." That fire inside her sparked to life one summer afternoon when her grandmother gave her a book about the human body. It was filled with bright pictures of the heart, lungs and brain. Ava was only 12, but she couldn't put it down. She read it so many times the pages curled and the spine broke. While her classmates spent summer playing video games or watching cartoons, Ava was at her desk, tracing diagrams and writing down words like aorta and synapse. She even found one of her mom's old nursing books and began reading through it at night with a flashlight. One evening, Bella barged into Ava's room holding 2 dolls. "Let's play," she said cheerfully. Ava looked up from her textbook and smiled softly. "Not now. I'm studying," she replied. Bella groaned and left, but Ava quickly turned back to a page filled with Latin medical terms. Her love for science and medicine wasn't a passing interest. It had become her purpose. In high school, Ava joined the science club, where she dissected animal organs and learned how to use a microscope. Her biology teacher, Mr. Davis, noticed her dedication. "You've got a future in medicine," he told her one afternoon. He encouraged her to volunteer at the local community clinic. Ava spent weekends there helping sort files and occasionally talking to older patients about their medications. "It's not just about knowing things," Mr. Davis reminded her. "A real doctor listens." That stuck with her. By sophomore year, Ava knew she wanted to become a doctor. She spent hours watching videos of surgeries, reading medical articles and filling notebooks with her observations. While her friends obsessed over dances and movies, Ava immersed herself in her passion. She studied anatomy flashcards during lunch breaks and saved up money to buy used medical books online. Her favorite place became the small library across town, where she read articles about neurology and surgical breakthroughs. One night, Ava watched a video of a brain tumor being removed and felt her heart race, not with fear but with awe. She whispered, "This is what I want to do." Despite her growing passion, the pain of being overlooked still lingered. When she won another science fair in 8th grade, this time with a project on DNA, her parents didn't come. They had gone to Bella's cheerleading practice. Ava stood in the school hallway with her medal, watching other students hug their families. She smiled through it all, but later cried in the bathroom, clutching the ribbon like a secret. Someday, she told her reflection in the mirror. Someday they'll see what I'm made of. By the time Ava turned 16, her dream of becoming a neurosurgeon was more than just a goal. It was a calling. But life threw her a painful challenge. One day after school, she began to feel sharp pain in her lower back that shot down her legs. At first she ignored it. Probably just stress, she told herself. But the pain got worse. She started waking up with numbness in her legs and struggled to bend or sit for long. Eventually she saw a specialist. The doctor's face was serious as he read her scans. "Ava, you have early signs of degenerative disc disease," he said gently. "The discs in your spine are breaking down. If we don't act soon, you could lose movement in your lower body." Ava sat there frozen. Her dreams of medical school, of holding a scalpel with steady hands, all flashed through her mind in seconds. "Surgery?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," the doctor replied. "Spinal fusion. It's major. Recovery will take months." She swallowed hard and nodded. But when she told her mom that evening, Claire barely looked up from her tablet. "Bella's graduation is in May. Can you wait until after that?" Ava couldn't believe what she'd heard. She repeated herself slowly. "The doctor said if I wait, I might lose feeling in my legs." Her mother blinked. "But Bella's worked so hard for that day," she said. "We just can't miss it." Ava hung up the call and sat on her bed in silence. The walls of her room, once filled with books and quiet determination, now felt like they were caving in. "They don't see me," she whispered. "They really don't see me." That night she cried into her pillow until sleep took her. But by morning, something inside her had changed. She stood in front of her mirror, stared into her own tired eyes and said aloud, "If they won't stand with me, I'll stand for myself." She began keeping a journal of her symptoms. Every wave of pain, every numb toe, every time she struggled to walk up the stairs. She tracked it all, determined to give her medical team no excuse to delay. "I will not let this stop me," she wrote on the first page. "My dreams are mine. I won't hand them over for someone else's big day." The morning of her surgery came faster than she expected. The sun hadn't even risen fully in San Antonio when Ava was wheeled into the operating room. Her heart pounded beneath the thin hospital gown. She kept her eyes on the ceiling lights, trying to breathe through the fear. Nurses moved quickly around her, checking monitors, inserting IVs. A kind voice broke through the noise. "Hi Ava. I'm Nurse Grace. I'll be here with you the whole time." Ava nodded, blinking back tears. Grace smiled and held her hand. "You're brave, sweetheart." As the anesthesiologist leaned over to ask her name and birth date, Ava whispered, "Ava Martin. January 14th. Her voice trembled. Just before she drifted off, she whispered in her mind, "I must survive. I will." But the surgery didn't go as planned. Halfway through, her blood pressure dropped dangerously low. The surgeon called out orders. "We need more fluids. Prepare for extended decompression." Ava's spine was more compressed than expected. The procedure that was supposed to take 4 hours stretched into 7. When Ava finally woke up, everything felt heavy. The world was blurry. She was in a recovery room, covered in blankets, her back stiff and wrapped in gauze. Beeping monitors surrounded her. Her throat was dry and her mouth opened slowly. "Grace," she rasped. Within seconds, Nurse Grace appeared. "I'm here," she said softly. She held Ava's hand and brushed hair away from her damp forehead. "You did great." Ava blinked up at her. "Are my parents?" she began, her voice cracking. Grace paused and lowered her eyes. "They haven't come yet, honey," she said gently. "They're at Bella's graduation." Ava closed her eyes tightly, fighting fresh tears. The pain in her back was sharp, but the ache in her chest was deeper. "They chose her again," she murmured. Grace reached for her phone and showed Ava a picture. It was Ava in a hospital gown, smiling weakly the moment she had come out of surgery. "I took this," Grace said, "because even if they're not here, I am. And I see you." Ava lay still, staring at the white ceiling. The room buzzed softly with machines. She could hear faint voices outside the curtain. Other patients, nurses talking, wheels squeaking on the floor. But inside her space it was quiet. Lonely. She tried to sit up but gasped at the searing pain along her spine. Easy, Grace said, helping her lean slightly. Ava winced. I wanted to see them. Even just for a minute. Grace smiled sadly. You wanted them to be proud. That's human. Ava nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I didn't even get a text. Grace gently wiped her tears. You don't need their approval to shine. You're here. You made it. In that moment, Ava realized something important. Love doesn't always come from where it should, but it still exists. It can come from someone who holds your hand when you're scared, from the courage inside you when no one shows up. She whispered, I won't let this break me. Grace squeezed her hand. That's the spirit, doctor-to-be. Ava's recovery was long and difficult. For weeks, she needed help just to sit, stand, or shuffle across the hospital floor. But she refused to give up. Every morning, Nurse Grace arrived with a smile and encouraging words. Up we go, champion, she'd say, helping Ava into a walker. Ava gritted her teeth through the pain, determined to get stronger. She practiced deep breathing, stretched slowly, and journaled her progress each day. Still, her parents never visited. Not once. No flowers. No calls. No check-ins. But Ava didn't let it stop her. The silence from her family became her fuel. This is my body. My fight. My future, she wrote one night, tears falling onto the page. She focused on healing not just her spine but her spirit. Grace became her anchor, her sister in strength. Ava whispered one day, You're more of a family than they ever were. Grace smiled and replied, That's because I see you, Ava. And I believe in you. When Ava was finally discharged from the hospital, she returned to school part-time with a back brace and a new fire in her soul. Her classmates were shocked to see her walking again so soon. How are you even here? One of them asked. Ava smiled. Because I want to be. She poured herself into her studies, waking up early to do physical therapy, then attending pre-med classes and staying late at the library. Some days the pain was still intense, but she never let it win. In her second year, she was accepted into a mentorship program at San Antonio General Hospital. On her first day, she wore her white coat with quiet pride. She entered the operating room to observe a spinal procedure the same type she had endured. Her eyes didn't flinch. Instead, she whispered to herself, I'm on the other side now. When the lead surgeon asked for assistance, Ava stepped forward, steady hands and clear eyes. She wasn't just healing. She was becoming. As time passed, Ava's resilience began to turn heads. Her professors admired her discipline. Her peers respected her dedication. She earned a scholarship based on her research into spinal nerve regeneration. Despite her own trauma, she volunteered for extra clinical shifts and joined a project focused on improving recovery protocols for post-op patients. No one should feel alone like I did, she told the team during their first meeting. Her work ethic caught the attention of Dr. Patel, the hospital's chief of neurology. He invited her to co-author a paper for a national medical journal. Ava felt stunned when he said, I see future leadership in you. It was the first time someone in power had recognized her potential. But Ava didn't get carried away. She stayed grounded. She remembered all the nights she cried herself to sleep, invisible to the people who were supposed to love her most. She had turned that pain into purpose. And now nothing could shake her. One spring afternoon, Ava sat at her desk in the hospital's resident lounge, checking her email before rounds. Her eyes landed on a subject line that made her stomach flip. Candidate Evaluation Request, Director of Patient Support Services. She opened the message and froze. There was Bella Martin, her sister, applying for a leadership position at the same hospital. Ava leaned back in her chair, stunned. Bella, the same sister who hadn't visited. The same one who went to the graduation instead of the surgery. Ava stared at the resume. Bella had a degree in health administration, a job history that looked polished, and even a project listed on patient care. Ava laughed bitterly. She wants to work in patient support? She whispered. The irony stung. She quietly picked up the phone and called Human Resources. Hi, this is Dr. Ava Martin. I'd like to recuse myself from any part of this review process due to a family conflict of interest. The woman on the line thanked her. But inside, Ava's heart churned with disbelief. Over the next week, Ava saw Bella in the halls smiling, carrying coffee, talking to staff like she'd always belonged. Each sight made Ava's chest tighten. She hadn't spoken to Bella in years, not since the surgery. And now, Bella was walking the same hospital floors as if nothing had ever happened. Ava tried to ignore it, focusing instead on her patients and her research. But the past was hard to forget. It rose like steam from the walls, every cold shoulder, every missed birthday, every empty chair beside her hospital bed. She told herself, let her be. Let the panel decide. But the tension weighed on her. She felt like a stranger in her own space. And yet she kept walking tall. This was her hospital. Her earned place. And no familiar smile could take that away from her. Then came the morning of the interview. Ava sat at the end of the glass-paneled conference room, beside Dr. Patel and two senior directors. They all reviewed files quietly until Bella entered, dressed in a sharp navy suit. She smiled and greeted them with confidence. Ava stayed silent. Bella's answers were well practiced. She described a past project at another hospital. She talked about empathy and patient-centered policy. But Ava noticed how her sister avoided specifics. When asked about leading in crisis, Bella gave a vague story. Ava jotted down notes but spoke only once to state, as a family member, I recused myself from any decision-making here. Bella nodded politely. But her eyes lingered. After the interview ended, Bella stood to leave, then turned to Ava and whispered, thank you for not saying anything. Ava replied coldly, just do your job well. That's all that matters now. Ava thought the tension was over, until an hour later her office door swung open. Her parents, James and Claire, marched in with Bella right behind. How could you let your sister fail? Claire snapped. You could have helped her, James added. Ava stood slowly, her voice calm but cold. She's being judged on merit, not on blood. Bella's voice cracked. You never forgave me, did you? You wanted to make me pay. Ava took a deep breath. Where were you when I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed? The room went silent. Then unexpectedly someone knocked on the door. It was Nurse Grace. Sorry to interrupt, she said. But I think there's something you should all hear. Grace walked in and closed the door softly. She stood tall, holding a folder in her hand. I was Ava's nurse during her spinal surgery, she said. Her blood pressure dropped twice. She nearly coded. I stayed by her side the entire night. And not one of you showed up. Claire's face went pale. James looked at the floor. Bella blinked quickly, fighting emotion. Why didn't anyone tell us? She asked. Grace didn't flinch. Because you weren't listening. And Ava deserved better. Ava sat down, trembling slightly but refusing to cry. This is my truth, she said. I don't need your guilt. I just needed you then. And you didn't come. The silence in the room was unbearable. Claire stepped forward, her voice shaking. We didn't know it was that serious. Ava raised her eyebrows. You didn't even ask. James mumbled. We thought you were strong. You always were. Ava laughed bitterly. That doesn't mean I didn't need support. Bella wiped her eyes and whispered, I'm sorry. Ava looked at her sister. I believe you. But sorry isn't always enough. Then she turned to her parents. I'm not angry anymore. I just don't trust you. And I won't build my life hoping you change. Grace placed a gentle hand on Ava's shoulder. You don't need to, she said softly. You've already built something stronger. A week later, Ava sat alone in her office, looking at a small email notification that popped up. It was from her father. The subject line was, I'm sorry. She hesitated, then clicked. The message was short. You were right. We failed you. I wish we could take it back. But I know we can't. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. Ava read the message twice. Then she closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. The ache was still there, but it was softer now. Healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing peace over bitterness. She stood, tied her coat, and stepped out to see her patients. The hallway buzzed with life, and Ava smiled, knowing that this life she built, was hers. Years passed, and Ava's name became known in her field. She became the lead neurosurgeon at San Antonio General and started a mentorship program for first-generation medical students. People came to her for advice, for leadership, for hope. She often said in interviews, I know what it means to feel unseen. So I see others. On the 5th anniversary of her surgery, she organized a hospital-wide wellness day for post-op patients. Grace stood beside her on stage, smiling proudly. "You made it," Grace whispered. Ava turned to her and replied, "Because someone stood by me when no one else did." The applause that filled the auditorium was not just for her success, but for her survival, her courage, and her heart. Bella eventually found a job at another hospital. They didn't talk often, but when they did, it was respectful, polite, sometimes even warm. One Christmas, Bella sent Ava a card that read, "I hope someday I can make you proud the way you've always made me proud." Ava placed the card on her desk and stared at it for a long time. She didn't know what the future held for their relationship, but she knew one thing for certain. She no longer needed their validation to feel whole. At her 10-year medical school reunion, Ava gave a keynote speech titled, "Pain Isn't the End of the Story." She told a room full of doctors and students, "There was a time I thought no one saw me. I was wrong. I had to see myself first. And once I did, everything changed." Her story was shared online and inspired thousands. Young girls wrote to her saying, "I want to be like you." Ava replied to every message with the same note, "You already are. You just have to believe it." One morning, Ava stood at the window of her office, sipping tea. The hospital below bustled with life, stretchers, visitors, medical staff rushing to help. She touched the scar on her back lightly and smiled. It no longer symbolized pain. It stood for survival. A quiet knock came at the door. A young resident peeked in. "Dr. Martin, a new patient just came in. Possible spinal trauma." Ava grabbed her coat and stood up. "Let's go." She walked the hallway not as the forgotten daughter, but as the leader she had always fought to become. Ava's journey was never about revenge. It was about becoming. Through years of silence, abandonment, and hardship, she had built a life of meaning brick by brick. And in the process, she discovered that strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's showing up. For yourself. For others. And in the end, the ones who once overlooked her couldn't help but look up to her. Moral lesson. When the world overlooks you, see yourself anyway. You don't need applause to rise. You just need purpose and the will to walk alone until someone walks with you. Remember to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more of this.